Hello everybody, this is Harrison. I have been the DM for the Return of Ornon campaign. We are now approaching the climactic episode of the first arc of the Return of Ornon. And since it's been a long and winding road to get there, I decided that it would be a good idea to go back and sort of record a recap of the story so far. If you have not listened to the episodes, I would definitely recommend and go back and listen to all of them just to get the sort of full story. This by no means will be everything, but I tried to hit all of the high points and cover most of the characters that you need to know to get you up to speed for the finale. But nonetheless, I would still recommend going back and listen to all of them. There's a lot of great moments that I just was not able to cover just in the interest of time for this. Anyways, without further ado, this is the story so far for the first arc of the Return of Ornon. So our story began with a bit of a prelude following four adventurers, Doran, Dracarys, Lelalia, and Joshimi, who journeyed down into a burial mound outside of the city of Wolfshold, looking for some treasure. While they were there, they accidentally released the lich of the ancient evil Ornon, and he fled off into the world to parts unknown, holding his silver dagger. The main story then picks up with Mikael, a drow paladin of the god Bahamut, being tasked to go out and gather a team. He then finds Sibo, a gnome rogue, Joan, a half-elf wizard, and Ramash, a dragonborn druid, and brings them back to the city of Beacon, where they are then told by Captain Artemis, who is a member of the Beacon City Guard, that they have determined that Ornon has 7 silver objects that he somehow put maybe his life essence or something of that nature into, and that those are sort of his tethers, and that they need to go and find those if they have any hope of dealing with this great evil that's been unleashed upon the world. So they are given some instructions, and the party sets off for the Garden of Stone in search of a wizard with a silver ring that apparently is one of Ornon's sources of power. Along the way, they are ambushed by Kenku assassins from the Night Terror. They talk to an Ent named Mossy from the Leaf Coalition, who is mad after they inadvertently set fire to the forest during the fight with the Kenku. And after smoothing things over with him, he helps them cross a river. They then reach the edge of the Garden of Stone, where they engage in a fight with a few twig blights. They then receive word that the town of Timber's Crest in the White Timber Forest, where Sibo is from, is on fire, and that a woman has been sort of ritually killed outside the city. Sibo wants to investigate this further, so he leaves to go investigate what's going on. And the other 3 in the party scout ahead into the Garden of Stone, where they find a burrow. They enter the burrow and they fight some rats and some sort of mushroom people. The mushroom people almost kill them, but at death's door, Bahamut comes to Mikael and offers to aid him, give him the strength to win this fight in return for a future task that he will need Mikael to do. Mikael agrees and is given incredible power by his god Bahamut to slay these foes and save his friends. Sibo then returns from Timber's Crest with news of the attack that happened there. He relays his tale. There was a battle that went on with all of these various troops that were being led by a group of whites. As soon as he is done relaying this tale, one of the whites that was involved is revealed to have followed him, and the party has to fight this white, eventually slaying it. The next day, they encounter a group on the road as they journey deeper into the Garden of Stone, led by Leroy. They attempt to extort the party. The party manages to make a deal for passage through and information on their quarry, the wizard that bears the silver ring. The party then locates this wizard named Beisel, and after a tense fight manages to defeat the magic wielder and take the silver ring he wears. They then see a blue light off in the distance, which upon investigation is revealed to be a portal to some sort of watery world full of eel-like creatures. The party is only there briefly before they are forced to run after these foes seem seemingly unsurmountable. After escaping through the portal appears to bubble, and a lot of these crab-like creatures that they're not really able to identify what they are, but these crab-like creatures just start pouring through the portal. So the party falls back, and they are rescued by a group of men who, after leading them away, then promptly arrest them and identify themselves as members of the Fist, the organization that is sort of the law in this land, or the self-proclaimed law, I should say, and also the ones that killed Joan's family. They, of course, have recognized Joan because of his many acts of retribution against the group, and since they have marked him as a criminal, they take the whole group to Reach to meet Jack, who's now the leader of the group, before Joan is set to be executed. Jack then reveals to Joan that he has figured out how to make a replica of Joan's gun. After meeting Jack in the jail, the party converses with a fellow inmate named Brutus, who is in a cell next to them. He offers to get them out in exchange for helping him with a heist, and after they agree, he quickly sends a message out the window that they don't quite understand, but then portals appear, which help them get away. These portals are revealed to have been created by Roland, a wizard who wants their help to rob the Reach Trust. The party then prepares their plan for the heist. Eventually, once night falls, the heist begins, and after taking out some of the guards and then recruiting one guard and charming another to help them, they make their way into the vault itself and then have to fight a giant knight who is guarding the vault. Once they take care of him, they begin to load their loot into a wagon. Jack then appears and throws to them the severed head of Roland, the wizard that sent them on this heist. And then he moves and attacks them with supernatural speed, revealing his full power as the Black Adder. After a tense standoff with Jack, the party is just able to flee in their wagon. Then a chase ensues as they make their way out of Reach. It involves daring heroics, a flaming unicorn, and an armored wagon that chases them. Eventually, the party is able to escape, but once they reach the White Timber Forest, they find themselves ambushed the moment they stop to rest by the Hoods of Robin, a group of gnomes. Sibo reveals to them that he used to be a member and asks to see their leader, Durin. After a conversation, Durin agrees to give them a guard through the forest in exchange for a good portion of the gold they have liberated from the trust. With this escort, the party then decides to journey towards Timber's Crest. Along the way, they have to battle some armored bears and their trainer, but they are able to make the trip in one piece. Once there, they talk to another Ent, Wydra, as well as several of the townsfolk, who all give them information that Malleoculus, the hated foe of Michael and also apparently now in league with Ornon, was there. And they give the general direction that the force that was there for the attack took as they left the city. Michael also learns from a man named Lester that the rumors are true, that Malleoculus can in fact absorb the life force of others to keep himself young, which is how he has survived all of these years. The party then decides to pitch in and help with the repairs of the city, as well as having some fun in the local bar and a bit of a shopping trip. The party then leaves Timber's Crest and has an uneventful journey back to Beacon. There they bring the ring to Captain Artemis, who promptly ushers them to the vault to seal it away until it can be destroyed, because they do not know currently exactly what to do with these items of great power in terms of destroying them correctly. After that, the party then takes in the sights of Beacon for a few days. Sibo robs a few people's houses, and Joan blows up a hot tub. The group are then invited to the wedding of Hiram Silvertwist, a patron of the Temple of Bahamut. The party accepts, but Ramash and Sibo intend to slip away, using the wedding as a distraction to get an undisturbed look at the vault, because they are worried both about the ring and a family heirloom of Sibo's that he believes is inside. It is now the day of the wedding. At the wedding venue, Michael sits front row, Sibo and Ramash scheme in the back. Joan is also in the back, however, he is taking a nap. As Sibo slips out, looking for an exit plan for himself and Ramash, he runs into Matilda, the bride-to-be. She tells Sibo that this whole thing is an arranged marriage, and she's about to leave with all of Hiram's gold before the wedding. Sibo offers to help her move the gold, but in exchange he wants her to go through with the wedding, seeing as how the wedding ceremony was going to be his distraction to get him and Ramash out of the building. As the wedding is concluding, Bahamut comes to Michael once again. He tells Michael that Hiram is a blasphemer and must be killed as repayment for the task Michael swore to. Michael then immediately skewers Hiram in front of everyone, and pandemonium ensues. Eventually, the whole group, including Matilda, meet up outside the vault after escaping from the wedding venue, with the exception of Joan, who is taking advantage of the wedding's open bar and, because he was asleep, blissfully unaware of the events that just unfolded. Sibo and Ramash enter the vault, learning that the ring is as safe as it can be, and that Sibo's family monocle was removed some time ago by a man named Tim. Outside, the group is confronted by Captain Artemis, who is very upset about the murder at the wedding, but ultimately decides to let them go after Sibo offers him a ledger detailing Hiram's misdeeds. The group sneaks out of the city, except for Joan, who is still at the bar. After several more hours, Joan finally learns from a fellow patron at the bar what happened and decides it would be a good idea to make his way out of the city. Eventually, everyone is reunited and they all spend the night camped outside the city of Beacon, getting to know Matilda, who decides to change her name to Brunhilde to avoid being recognized. The party then heads north, making their way to Wolf's Hold in search of Malleoculus and ultimately his Dark Master Ornon. They investigate the town and are eventually given a map to the burial mound by O'Toole in exchange for some coin. Once there, they descend into the mound and have a harrowing encounter with a Cambion named Laz. The group retrieves a silver pendant from the neck of Laz, which they assume to be another artifact of Ornon. They then investigate under the burial mound and find a magically shielded door that they are unable to open, but make note of to return to later. After a night's rest, they then set out towards Icy Pass, which is where they believe that Ornon might be, but they know for sure that Malleoculus went that way. Along the way, they stop off at the house of Ramash's druidic master and father figure, Og. Og offers to keep the pendant that they found safe and do more research on it. They agree, leaving it with him, and then continue to the pass. At the pass's entrance, the party encounters a few skeletons that they quickly dispatch. Proceeding forward, they come across two brass dragonborns, who were revealed to be Ramash's long-lost aunt and uncle. His aunt and uncle are named Razark and Amda, and together they explain that a necromancer in the mountains has raised an entire skeleton army, and they are preparing to hold this army back with some defenses they have prepared. The horde arrives, and the party joins in the defense of Icy Pass. After a long battle, they are ultimately successful in defeating the skeletons. After defeating the skeletons, the party camps out, but Brunhilde goes off into the woods a ways and discovers a crack in the stonework of the mountain. Proceeding in, she finds a room where she encounters the god Moradin, the Forge Master. She and Moradin have a conversation, and she decides to dedicate herself to the service of Moradin. Proceeding forward, the party investigates the pass further north. There, slightly off the road, they find a cottage with a gnome named Larson. After a brief encounter with him, involving some skeletal hands that reach up through the ground, Larson is able to slip into a tunnel system under the cottage, and the party chases him. One by one, they wind their way through these tunnels until they find Larson's laboratory/chill room, where through some discussion, they find out that Larson is actually a pretty chill dude. He reveals that although he's a necromancer, he's not exactly evil, and the skeleton army who they fought was paid for by Malleoculus before he continued north. Malleoculus also left behind a young woman, a seer who gives them a cryptic prophecy. After enjoying food, drink, and copious amounts of weed with Larson, the party continues north once again, coming to a cliff with runes etched into it. After experimenting a bit, they all place their hands on the cliff and are deemed worthy by an unseen voice that booms out to them and let into a passage that leads to the Plains of Doom. The party enters the Plains of Doom, a barren landscape entirely covered by a rocky dome and scarred by warfare. There, they fight an Oni as well as a group of half-ogres. During the fight with the half-ogres, they are joined by shadowy black-armored warriors, as well as a trio of massive paladins in red armor. After finishing the fight, the lead paladin introduces himself as Michael, the first paladin of Bahamut. Thoroughly confused by all of these events, the party then proceeds to the castle with Michael and Sage, the leader of the shadowy stealth warriors. There, they meet a wizard named Jairus, who explains to them that long ago the king of this castle, Ezra, assembled the finest army ever to fight back Ornon. They were successful in destroying his physical form, but with his dying breath, Ornon cursed the king, causing him to fall into a death-like sleep. Jairus then put the king into a stasis bubble to protect him from time until they could figure out how to revive him. But the forces of Ornon's army continued to attack the castle. In desperation, a powerful group of spellcasters raised the rocky bubble that now surrounds them to protect the castle. A combination of this bubble and the stasis spell on the king somehow had the unintended consequence of making all of them immortal, which is how they still remain today despite being there thousands of years. Ever since then, the enemy has been tunneling under the bubble, always searching for generations to achieve their final purpose of destroying the keep. After learning all of this, the party finds that the original group of Lelalia, Doran, Dracaris, and Joshimi have also somehow found their way there. They do some training in the castle, they plan their next move, and then a horde of goblins attacks, led by Malleoculus on a young red dragon. The party sallies forth to meet this attack. In the process, Mikhail wounds Malleoculus, who just smiles at him and then walks away, apparently taunting Mikhail to follow him. After some heroics, the party defeats their foes, but Malleoculus is nowhere to be found. The group celebrates their victory. Sibo and Joshimi get caught looting some of the bodies and are locked away in their room by Michael to teach them a lesson, while the rest of the group goes to eat. In the room, Sibo and Joshimi get into a bit of a fight, which ends in Joshimi unconscious and Sibo finding a secret compartment in Joshimi's bag. Inside, he finds the monocle of Latudu, the relic he was looking for. Putting it on, he now finds that he has the ability to become a shadow. He then sneaks into the dining hall, revealing himself and scaring the rest of the party. Joan is so surprised that he chokes on his beer, and after a few disastrous attempts to aid him, he dies. They then rush him to Jairus, who instructs them to put him into the stasis bubble with the king. The party's ultimate plan is to seek out Larsen's aid to possibly revive him, but at that point they are unable to do so since they do not have a way to exit the bubble. After that, Michael summons them to a meeting, where it is determined that they will journey down under the plains to find the enemy's stronghold. Once there, they will smash a small magic rock they were given, which will allow Jairus to open a portal through which the full army can attack. The party then begins their journey, with Joshimi joining them to round out the group. The party follows a tunnel deeper down. They have a brief fight with some Grimlock, but are otherwise unhampered in their efforts until they reach a point with a thick sulfuric mist. Using headlamps provided to them, they journey forward through this mist until they find a massive pit. After some experimentation, they decide it better to go around rather than down into the pit. This leads them to the ruins of a watchtower and an archway. There, they are attacked by a mind flayer. The mind flayer seizes upon Ramash, and during the course of the fight, extracts and eats his brain just before the flayer is himself slain. Jumping into action, Sibo and Brunhilde slice open the mind flayer, rearrange Ramash's brain in his head, and blast him with healing energy. Ramash shakes and then awakens, but has no memories from before that point, including the use of a large portion of his magical abilities. The party then camps near the watchtower to recover from the battle. After resting, the party continues forward down a side tunnel from the cavern they've been traveling. Along the way, they find a pen of steeders, which greatly speeds up their journey. A few hours in, an abandoned settlement blocks their path. Sibo and Mikhail elect to work their way through, and quickly find themselves tangled in a fight with a black ooze creature. The rest of the party rushes to their aid. In the ensuing fight, several members are badly burned with acid from the monster, and Ramash learns that through particularly adept magic use, he can relearn some of his lost spells. After slaying the creature, a bit of investigation leads them to a hidden key hidden inside of a mantle. Moving forward once more, the passage ends at a large gate guarded by several drow soldiers. After a brief fight, the party dispatches them and finds that the key they discovered opens the gate. Going through, they find themselves on the outer edge of Bloodvarin, an ancient drow city. Realizing that this must be the place they've been seeking, they crush the magic rock they were given, which quickly opens a portal through which Michael and the host of the castle march, ready for battle. As the forces of their allies arrange themselves, the party sees a red dragon, much larger than the one they fought before, take flight and begin to circle the city, this one also ridden by someone. Before they have time to take much of a plan, a small delegation of soldiers from Bloodvarin, led by a robed wizard, exit the city and stand waiting for them. The party goes with Michael to meet them, except for Joshimi, who sees Sage off to the side and goes to join her. There is a brief exchange of words with this delegation, until Ramash becomes enraged and hurls a flame at the wizard leading them, killing him instantly. There is then a skirmish in the street with the remaining soldiers, who are dispatched with Michael's help. Afterwards, a large force of troops is heard moving towards the gate, and Michael advises that retreat and regroup is their best option. The party then splits up. Sibo goes to the eastern gate of the city in his shadowy form to infiltrate and survey the city. Mikhail stays by the northern gate, intending to be captured in hopes of being led directly to their leader. Brunhilde thinks this is a stupid plan, but begrudgingly agrees to join him so he's not alone. Ramash moves back with Michael and finds that Joshimi is nowhere to be found, apparently having left with Sage. As soldiers surround Michael and Brunhilde, the dragon they saw circling lands, and the rider is revealed to be Malleopolis, who welcomes Mikhail to the city before flying off. The two of them are then taken into the city, where they eventually meet Queen Arlana, the ruler of the city, a drow woman with sharp, pointed teeth. After talking to them briefly, Mikhail is taken away to a holding cell, but Arlana instructs Brunhilde to be left. Arlana then bites Brunhilde's neck, dealing significant damage and causing her to fall unconscious. While this is going on, it is revealed that Joshimi and Sage, along with a group of assassins, have climbed the walls of the keep and using secret passages infiltrated the castle. As Brunhilde falls, they spring their trap, dropping in unaware and capturing Arlana. Outside the city, Michael and Ramash have divided their troops between the northern and western gates, and under heavy fire from archers are eventually successful in smashing through their respective gates into the city. Using all this confusion, Sibo has continued to creep forward into the massive temple in the city, surveying it and learning vital information. Back in the castle, Brunhilde is stabilized by Joshimi, but is deemed too unwell to travel the city. After sending a soldier to alert Michael of their success, they hole up in a tower in the castle with Sage and the rest of her troops. Ramash, having taken the western gate, moves tactically through the city, planning to join up with Michael's larger force to the north. Mikhail meets in his cell with Malleopolis, who taunts him, telling him that the murder of his family meant so little he doesn't even remember it. He then leaves Mikhail alone, until a soldier Sage sent out as a messenger happens upon the building and frees Mikhail. They then go to meet up with Michael. Inside the temple, Sibo learns that this is a temple to Tiamat and finds a large portal he assumes goes to hell and a magical laboratory level where he finds a staff that looks useful as well as some kind of enchanting table. Placing his monocle on the table and slicing his hand, Sibo uses blood magic to give his monocle greater power, with seemingly no side effects. Sibo then exits the temple and is able to regroup with Ramash and Mikhail as they fight a Gorgon that the Bloodvaran mages have released on them. In the fight, Sibo tosses Ramash the staff he found, which leads Ramash to discover that when wielded by magic users, it has the ability to transform into a wooden version of any melee weapon. After slaying the Gorgon, the three of them regroup with Michael. Meanwhile, in the castle, the infiltration group has been noticed, and soldiers, as well as the dragon, have begun to close in. Arlana then reveals to them that she is actually an avatar of Tiamat, before promptly disappearing through a portal. Having lost their leverage, Joshimi, Brunhilde, and Sage lead their group on a desperate escape from the castle. Dodging dragon fire, they encounter a large group of soldiers, where Brunhilde is tragically slain trying to protect her friends. Due to the press of soldiers, they are forced to leave her body behind, but Joshimi takes the helmet from Brunhilde's head to remember her. Mikhail, Sibo, and Ramash then come across a tiefling named Ryder, who after some caginess admits that he was sent with a team working for a group called the Blackwaters to investigate this city. Their plan went badly, and the rest of his crew is now dead, so he agrees to join them in hopes of escaping. The entire party is then reunited as they assault the Tiamat temple in the center of the city. After battling several mages as well as a large group of troops, they finally push their way inside. Once inside, a final stand of the defending troops against their forces is shaping up, when the stained glass window at the top of the temple is suddenly shattered by the large red dragon they saw before hurtling through it. What ensues is a battle of epic proportions. Thousands of troops clash, and the dragon causes mayhem in the center of it all. After great heroics and feats of strength from the entire party, the dragon is felled and their forces are victorious. However, there is no time for celebration. During the battle, Maleacus once again slipped away, this time down to the basement of the temple. The party rushes in pursuit, just in time to see Maleacus consume the life essence of 100 Tiamat acolytes before giving a wink to Michael and stepping through the portal to hell. There is then disagreement among the party about their next course of action. Michael wants to follow right away, winning Ryder over, while Sibo and Joshimi are more hesitant, and Ramash is firmly against going through it all. After much research from Ramash with Joshimi's assistance, they find several hidden tomes in the temple, which once decoded by Jairus, lead them to a power source that apparently appears to be what the Drow are using to prevent the castle above from removing the protection spell that causes the bubble. This pedestal needs a medallion key, which Michael remembers seeing around the neck of Maleacus, which means they have no choice but to go to hell. The party prepares to enter hell, with Michael and a group of soldiers to assist them. As they step through into a barren landscape of eternal war, they find that the portal has closed behind them, preventing their reinforcements from passing through. Uncertain of where to go, they see a figure with a glowing head in the distance. Making their way towards it, they are nearly overwhelmed by the battle before the figure appears and teleports them away. After reaching safety, the figure is revealed to be Roland, who explains he's been searching for his severed head so that he can get out of hell. After telling them to wait in his portal room, Roland leaves them there. Sibo then has a vision where he talks to his ancestor Tom Latudu, who tells him that the blood magic he did in the temple actually sold his soul to Tiamat. But fear not, Tom is working on a plan to help Sibo steal his soul back. After waiting for a while for Roland, the party grows impatient, and two groups split, with Sibo and Ryder going through one portal, and Michael and Ramash going through another. Joshimi firmly states that he will wait for Roland and stays behind. Sibo and Ryder find themselves in the tower of the Lady Voluptua, who is the patron demon of the Warlock Ryder. They are then informed that the two of them will have to fight in a tournament. Ramash and Michael find themselves in some sort of a goblin forging room with a giant forge-bellied monster working in there. They then must fight this monster, and after slaying him, a horde of goblins descends on them and they run away. Back in Voluptua's tower, we have Sibo and Ryder, who begin to fight in the tournament, and after taking out their foe, see Roland and Joshimi appear, flying on hell goats. Roland dive bombs into Voluptua's box, yelling that he wants his head back. We then see Ramash and Michael enter into the arena, having crossed through a portal in their realm into this realm. Chaos then ensues as this entire tower is filled with the spectators of the tournament and goblins and guards, and this giant fight between Voluptua and Roland up in the box. Eventually, they make their way up to the box, where Voluptua then yells at them to get out and banishes them to somewhere else. The party then finds themselves in Mauser's Fun Emporium, somewhat sarcastically named, as Mauser is apparently set up shop as a sort of torture for hire, where he makes people go through these sort of sadistic games to earn tokens, sort of as a punishment that the various demons of the different realms of hell can use for people that displease them. Eventually, the group completes enough challenges that they are able to earn their way out, and another portal opens up for them that they step through. The party is then transported to a room with an orb in the center of it on a pedestal. As various members of the party touch it, they play through slightly altered versions of memories from their past, the death of Ramash's parents, and a heist Sibo took part in. They then learn this place is called the Hall of What Was and What Could Have Been. The party then finds a hidden passage in this room that leads down below, and they also sense they are not alone. There also appears to be a lot of illusory magic at play. Sibo makes contact with Tom and asks him to contact Roland, fearing that they are in a mind flayer nest. Finding no perceivable way out, they experiment more with the orb, with Joshimi being sent somewhere in the forest by Wolfshold, Mikhail and Ramash to Beacon, and Ryder and Sibo reliving Ryder's first job for the Blackwaters in the city of Beacon. Through many twists and turns, some of them memory and some fabricated reality, the party are reunited as their various illusory realities appear to bend together. They are able to escape, but wake up in a cage. After escaping the cage, they explore their surroundings, and Joshua finds a book that appears to be an entire recorded history of his life. Eventually, they find a mind flayer asleep on a bed. Just as Ramash steps forward to slay him, he awakens, looks at Sibo, and speaks to him in the voice of Tom before disappearing, proving that they are in fact still in some kind of an illusion. Exploring this illusion further, the party finds a series of puzzles that they must solve, which eventually opens some kind of passageway behind a fireplace after they burn Joshimi's book of his life. This passage then leads them into a version of Beacon, where they encounter a peculiar-looking chicken. They follow this chicken to a house, where it speaks to them with the voice of Tom. He tells them that when Sibo attempted to contact him, it was intercepted by the mind flayers, but he was able to sense the connection and eventually trace it back to find them. He then instructs them to go to the vault in Beacon, where they will apparently recognize what they should do next. But if he says it directly, then the mind flayers will know and change it, is what he tells them. The party sets off to break into the vault once again. Joshimi discovers that his supposedly burned book has somehow returned to his bag, and unseen by the rest of the party, he attempts to write into it to dictate the future, seemingly successfully, as the party is almost too successful in their task. Sibo, Ramash, and Joshimi break into the vault, while Mikhail and Ryder stage a massive distraction, hoping to draw their mind flayer captives' attention elsewhere. The vault break-in is successful, and they find a portal inside. However, Joshimi's book seems to be failing him, as he is unable to write a message that summons Mikhail and Ryder to rejoin them. Instead, Mikhail and Ryder somehow appear to have found their way to Wolfshold, although they do not know how they left Beacon and found their way there. Joshimi goes searching for Mikhail and Ryder, and eventually also finds himself there with them in Wolfshold. Sibo and Ramash, having waited some time in the vault, eventually enter the portal that they found, and they appear in Larsen's bunker. After several twists and turns, the other three also find their way out of Wolfshold and appear with their companions. They are unsure what to do, but eventually Sibo has the idea to fill the room with smoke, and as he does so, a shimmering door appears. Pushing through it, he awakens on the floor of a chamber with some sort of a tentacle in his throat. He pulls it out and then helps his companions, who are all in a similar state. As they are recovering, a mind flayer appears and is surprised that they are awake. The party then fights the mind flayer along with his psionic rats. The mind flayer escapes, and Sibo charms the rats to do his bidding. The party then scatters in different directions, looking for a way out. The Mind Flayer appears to want to have a conversation with Sibo, telling them that they should work together, that Sibo should work for him, that Malleoculus instructed him to just not let the party leave, but that doesn't mean he has to kill them before he eventually teleports away. Ramash is also captured by the Mind Flayers and taken to a dark room where he is bound with chains that do not allow him to use his magical energy. Ryder, with Mikhail, attempts to contact Roland with sending. He gets a response from Roland, but he's wary that it might be another Mind Flayer trick. In fumbling through all of these tunnels, Joshimi collides with a Mind Flayer and in the confusion scoops up a rat that fell out of the Mind Flayer's bag before running away and being able to escape. Once in safety, he examines the rat and finds that it is dressed in clothes and can talk to him psychically. The rat says his name is Seth. On Seth's back, Joshimi finds a backpack, and inside that backpack is Ramash, who has somehow magically been shrunken to fit inside and be held there. He is able to break the bonds on Ramash's arms and legs, however, Ramash is still tiny. Eventually, winding through these twists and turns of the Mind Flayer's compound, they eventually are all reunited. However, they are confronted by the Mind Flayer once more and are able to kill him. As he is slain, many more appear, and the odds seem stacked against the party. At that moment, Roland appears, quickly directing them to scatter through different portals as a means to make it more difficult for the Mind Flayers to find them. The party each pick their portals, uncertain of what lies ahead. And that is the story so far. If you want to know what's behind each of these portals and what happens with the party, are they successful? Is Malleoculus slain? Do they all make it out alive? Well, you'll just have to listen to the finale.